Hello and welcome, and I am back. My name is Natty Cash, and we are back with some more NFL prediction videos. Thank you so much for your patience. I was recovering from sickness. I'm still kind of on the edge of it here, and my voice might go a little bit as we film this video, but we're back again to film some more NFL prediction videos. We're already here at week 8, which is kind of seems like the season's flying by so far, but I'm excited to take a look at some of the matchups today. Last week, as you can take a look, wrong side. Take a look up here. I did decently well. I have changed the way that I've stated my predictions, where then I have kind of a win-loss schedule. So I got 11 correct, 4 incorrect. That's bumped my overall up, so I'm above 500 by a fair bit now. 53 correct, 38 incorrect, but hopefully I can keep this good streak going and make some good predictions this week as well. So starting off, we have the AFC South matchup on Sunday with the Colts going out to Houston to play the Texans. Seems like Anthony Richardson is going to be playing. They're getting some injuries back. There was some concerns about Anthony Richardson last game, but they were able to go in and get a win against Miami. Houston has been playing very well, although they could not come up with the victory at Green Bay. They still seem like a fairly strong team and are going to be a force to compete with in the AFC. With that in mind, I do see Houston getting the win here. I think as we continue to see, they're going to continue to get wins on the board and push their way up the AFC standings. And so I do give Houston and the Texans the victory here. Next, we have the Baltimore Ravens with an AFC North matchup against the Cleveland Browns. The Ravens did very well and took care of business pretty handily against the Buccaneers last week. The Browns had a closer game but could not seal a win against the Bengals. And when we look at the Browns, Deshaun Watson out for the season. It's interesting to note how that will shape the rest of the year. Jameis Winston seems to be the starter coming into next week. We'll see what he's able to do with that Browns offense. But even with selling and trading Amari Cooper, right? This is a team that's going to be on the rebuild. And on the other side, the Ravens are again ascending to be one of the top teams in the AFC. So to me, I don't see this as being a really big competition. I see the Ravens going into Cleveland and getting a pretty solid victory. Next up, we have the the Jets going to the Patriots in an AFC East matchup. The Jets still struggling, right? Only 2 wins on the season and starting to have lots of questions. Already a head coach being fired, and even bringing Davante Adams in was not enough for them to get a victory against the Steelers. The thing that was probably the toughest part of that is how far they are ahead. And again, it wasn't by much, but to give up 30 kind of unanswered points was really tough to see if you're a Jets fan. Then you look at the Patriots, who, again, this is a rebuilding year. Drake May has had an opportunity now, started in 2 games. Even though they lost out to Jacksonville, there's still some promising things to see. There's a lot of hype on the internet that, Drake May is this big superstar. I'd be curious if this is a game where he could really show that. I am going to be a little bit reserved, though, in that, and recognize that maybe that's a step too far at this moment, but this game maybe is closer than what people would seem. I am going to give the Jets the victory, but it's maybe just going to be marginally. If it's a case where the Patriots come in and win this, that's going to be bad news for the Jets. It's going to be very difficult for them to push even towards the playoffs if they're going into the next week at a 2-6 record. So I am going to give the Jets just a narrow victory here. Then we have the AFC West matchup where we have the Kansas City Chiefs going to visit the Raiders out in Vegas. With the Chiefs, there's really nothing else to say that they are the best team in the league. right? The only undefeated team remaining, and there's nothing that seemed to be stopping them. Even though Patrick Mahomes isn't having a great year, their defense is solid and their offense does enough to win games, which is probably the scariest part of this whole scenario. If Mahomes can get back onto even, a little bit better to where he's at, this team is going to be unstoppable. The Raiders, on the other hand, did start Aiden O'Connell last week, but then he got injured. He's going to be out for a while. So do we look back at Gardner Minshew? They look like they brought in Desmond Ridder off of the Cardinals. So we'll see who's starting. I think I would probably lean towards Minshew, but it's hard to know, and I don't really see them having any success here. Losing to the Rams narrowly, again, right? They're really going to just be building for next year. So I give the Chiefs the win here. And, they're going to continue to move their undefeated season forward. Next up, we're now moving into AFC, NFC matchups. We have the Green Bay Packers going out to Jacksonville for a matchup there. Jacksonville's returning back from London after a 2-game spell. Did well to beat the Patriots. Trevor Lawrence looked decent. My problem is that, that's the only type of quality wins they're getting is against teams they would be expected to win. I don't see them coming in and making a big statement against the Packers here. Packers continue to play well, did well to beat the Texans, a tough AFC team. And so seeing them coming into Jacksonville, I think Green Bay is going to continue to roll and get another victory under their belt. So I have the Packers in this one. Next, we've got the Arizona Cardinals going into Miami and having the Cardinals coming off of a win against the Chargers, maybe a bit of an upset on Monday, seeing the Cardinals get a victory. When I look at the Cardinals, I see them as a decent team. I think if there's lots of losses, San Francisco isn't as great. The Rams aren't going to be as great this year either. That they could be a sneaky team that makes their way into a playoff, maybe as a 9-7 team, as a division leader, or maybe we'll see what the playoffs would look like in a wild card position. But I could see the Cardinals potentially pushing there. They seem to be able to get some wins out when they're up against it. The Dolphins, I think, are again in tough. We'll see what Tua's going to bring. I don't know if it's been confirmed that he's playing this week. I'd have to double check that. But I am concerned about what his availability is going to be like. I think Huntley got injured last week in their loss to the Colts. So I think without Tua, I would lead towards the Cardinals. But I think generally, there's a lot of there isn't a lot of faith that Tua's going to be able to go out and perform. We'll see. Maybe he's healthy and ready to go, but I am concerned about if there's going to be lots of pressure put on him, if he's going to be able to perform and do well. I am going to pick the Cardinals here. It was kind of a tough pick for me, but I think I am going to go with the Cardinals, getting another victory, and it's going to allow them to push towards a potential playoff spot, I think. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans up against the Detroit Lions. The Lions did very well, taking down the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. They've now cemented themselves as the NFC North leaders at the time being in a very strong division. Titans, on the other hand, again, continue to struggle, losing handily to the Bills in the end. It was closer than what we would think early on, but the Bills really poured it on to get the victory there. So when we see this, it doesn't seem like there's a close matchup here. I am going to give the Lions the benefit of the doubt here. Well, actually, it's not even that. They're clear favorites, and I think they're going to go in and get another win, right, and show that the NFC North is probably the strongest division in the league this year. So I'm going with the Lions win. Next, we have the Buffalo Bills playing the Seattle Seahawks. Two teams kind of on the northern side of the United States that are playing against each other. Buffalo Bills seem to keep getting wins. I am concerned sometimes about how well they play in the first half, and then it feels like the second half, whether it's Josh Allen or maybe some gameplay decisions that they push forward and get a win. Seattle Seahawks are kind of an interesting team in my mind. Starting 3-0, then losing three straight, but then they got a decent win against the Falcons. So, it's what Seattle team are we going to see? I do think that the Bills are going to go and get a win here. I do think Seattle's record of 4-3 is probably to the benefit of some of the teams they've played already. And as they get throughout the year and start playing maybe some division matchups and some other games, they're going to struggle. And I think part of that starts here. So I am giving the Bills the win, although this is tough because I know that Seattle at home can be a tough matchup. Lots of travel going from the East Coast to the West Coast, but I am going to give the Bills the advantage here and the win. Moving along, we see the New Orleans Saints going out to LA to face the Chargers. Saints still with Spencer Rattler as their quarterback, although I haven't double checked because he did get injured, I think, towards the end of that game, whether he's playing or not. I anticipate so, but I haven't heard anything different. And the Chargers, that after a tough loss against the Cardinals, are going to be looking to bounce back. I still think this is just a tough season when you don't have Derek Carr and you saw the offensive potency that they had. It's tough for me to see that the Saints are going to do well with Spencer Rattler at the helm. It's just a tough injury at that point, and they've had a pretty significant slide, right, from starting 2-0 to I think it's 2-5 where they're sitting right now. I am going to give the Chargers and maybe credit to Jim Harbaugh to bounce back after the Monday night loss and give Chargers a win here to kind of put them back steady and moving forward in the right direction. Next, we are dealing with the Panthers going out to Denver to play the Broncos. Broncos did well, got a solid win on Thursday night against the Saints. Panthers, again, are continuing to struggle. And again, this is what we anticipated, right? A big loss against the Commanders. And really, I look at this in a similar way where I think Bo Nix is a solid fit, and Sean Payton is using him well to get the best out of him in that offense. And so I give the Broncos the edge here. Like, they might be a dark horse to say they might push into the playoffs, where then maybe perhaps you'd say this is a rebuilding year. But I think the Broncos continue to win. They continue to push their way up in the AFC West division and potentially pushing their way into a playoff spot. So I do have the Broncos with the win here. Next up, we have the Eagles up against the Bengals. So the Eagles, again, decent winning over the Giants, although there are still some questions that I have about the Eagles in general. And the Bengals are in a similar spot where, they got a win against Cleveland, but, still a lot of things to work on to make sure that they are pushing towards playoffs. I think for both of these teams, if they get a loss, it is a concerning look and hoping that they can bounce back and be able to make an opportunity to push for playoffs. Maybe the Eagles are a little bit more set for that. So this is one of the tough ones for me this week. I am going to go with the Eagles, I think, just because I believe that their record is a little bit better and they've had a few more quality games where they've been successful, where then I think the Bengals still have to prove that yet this year. So Eagles with the victory on Sunday against the Bengals. Next, we have the New York Giants up against the Steelers. Steelers with Russell Wilson got a very good win against the Jets. Giants, tough loss against the Eagles. And I think the Giants are still going to struggle. I really like Malik Nabers, and he's going to be a great wide receiver, I think, in this league. But I think, especially with Russell Wilson, and the tough defense that the Steelers have, they are on a run, and I think they could do very well. There's a chance that they could be AFC North champions. I think they're going to be a little bit shy of that, but coming in as a strong wildcard team, I think is probably where we'll see the Steelers, and I think they're going to continue that by getting a solid win here against the Giants. Well, now let's move down to the all NFC matchups. Just 4 games left here. The first one we have is the Vikings on Thursday night going out to the Rams. There's been interesting rumors of a trade between like Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford. I don't know if that's how legitimate that is, or if that's just kind of wishful thinking in either direction. But I think the Vikings, despite losing to the Lions, are still a solid team and really only lost by 2 points. I think there's still a lot of struggles that the Rams have, even though they got the win against the Raiders. I think it's going to be tough for them to build on that too much. I do see the Vikings being the better team here, going out and getting the victory on Thursday night. The next matchup is an NFC South matchup with the Falcons going out to Tampa Bay. And this is a great matchup, seeing the 2 teams pushing forward for the NFC South title. I think it's probably a 2-horse race at this point. The problem is, it's unfortunate for Tampa Bay, losing Mike Evans for about 3 weeks or so, losing Chris Godwin for the year for injury, really depletes that receiving core. And where then their original matchup, the Falcons won in overtime, I thought potentially going in here previously that the Buccaneers could get a redemption. I think that's very unlikely now. There would have to be some big step-ups from the offense, some of the other wide receivers, a very solid running game. Like, that's something they're going to have to lean into. So I am going to give the win against the Falcons. If it's a scenario where the Buccaneers can beat the Falcons, that's a huge win for them to be able to then get another win in the division. But I think the Falcons are going to win, which, may be the tipping point for the Falcons to move forward and go all the way to becoming NFC South champions. But it is still early. There's lots of games left. But I am picking the Falcons in this one. The next thing we see here is a wonderful matchup. Number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, going out to face number 2 overall pick, Jayden Daniels, in what I think will be a great quarterback matchup. Both of them have done well so far this year. Both teams, I think, are pushing well enough that they could each make the playoffs. We'll see kind of as that lines up throughout the year. I do think the Bears have a tough schedule ahead of them, and that might be difficult for them. Washington might be able to take advantage for the stumbles that the Eagles and the Cowboys have had so far. But this matchup here, I think, is going to be a really good one. It could go back and forth. This is another tough one to choose from, right? You could look at the Commanders at having a better record, but I do think the overall team and the defense is better for the Bears. And I am going to give the advantage to the Bears. With the bye week, I think to give an extra level of planning is going to go a long way for the Bears to be successful. So I think they're going to go in and take the victory here. And finally, our last game here on Sunday, we have the Cowboys going out to play the 49ers. A classic matchup, thinking back to maybe the 90s where you had these two as probably the dominant teams in the NFC. This one, again, feels different. Cowboys having their own struggles this year, not looking as sharp as they've been. Same with the 49ers, right? The 49ers coming off of a tough loss against the Chiefs, but even before that, right, not necessarily looking themselves. They have gotten wins against the Seahawks, but they lost to the Cardinals. Cowboys lost badly to the Lions. So it's really tough to know who's going to come through in this game. And I could go either way. I am going to choose the Cowboys to win here. Again, I'm giving them the advantage that maybe they can find their identity from last year as a solid regular season team and do that by using the bye week and being a little bit more rested. I still think there's lots of injury issues with the 49ers. I think, what was it, Brandon Ayuk went out of the game last week. I could be wrong on that, but Christian McCaffrey again. There's no timeline on what his return is. So, and maybe there also were some reports of maybe some arguments between Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. So maybe things aren't hunky dory out in San Francisco either. So I am going to give the edge to the Cowboys, although I could see the 49ers coming out and winning, but I'm going to stick my head out there. I'm going to give the Cowboys a win in this one. And there you have it. Those are all of my predictions. I will then kind of work back so you can take a look at all of the predictions that I made this week. If you have your own predictions to make, please make them down in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, as that helps me to build my channel. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.